The Patriots obviously lost 34-15 yesterday at Miami. People don't like Ben Volen, and this is another situation. It happens a lot in my life, and I'm starting to realize that people don't like Ben Volen. I'm not positive why. I know why people don't like Tomasi, and I'm not saying it's legitimate. I know they don't like Tomasi because of the Spygate stuff.
Thing, yeah.
So like whatever on that, but I don't. Volen's never done that to my knowledge. I don't know. Maybe people like him, and it's just like people on the internet. But anyway, he has an article about the Patriots might want to reevaluate the hiring of Mayo, which every team should reevaluate their coach at the end of the year. He says, I want to go kind of point by point with this. The blowout loss to the Dolphins is the type that should make Kraft reevaluate everything about the future of his franchise, whether Alex Van Pelt is the right man for developing the team's golden asset, Drake May. Now, here is what's interesting about that. Is Alex Van Pelt is obviously not inventive or he's never going to be a star offensive coordinator. However, he did play quarterback, and Drake May, according to everyone around the league, going into this game was saying he's forget the physical stuff. He's and leading huddles and everything else he's doing well. He's processing. He's not being fooled. This is what Rams coaches were telling Gasper. I heard Gasper in the pregame telling Gasper after the game last week. He was saying he's processing things. We weren't fooling him before pre-snap. Mm-hmm. He was reading things well. He was putting the ball in places where it needed to be. So that's the most fascinating thing to me about the offseason is because we all know that you can screw up a quarterback by giving him too many offensive coordinators. In fact, if you look at a list of failed quarterbacks, I guarantee you they have more than a couple offensive coordinators. So do you take a shot on a guy who's extremely inventive and is going to do unique things to put you in opportunities to win, or do you keep another year with the guy who has been successfully developing your quarterback? That's going to be a fascinating question.
So, obviously, there are lessons to be learned from what happened with Mac Jones and the changing of his offensive coordinator. And
happens all the time. Bad teams draft quarterbacks, fire coaching staffs, throw a bunch of stuff at the kid, and then the kid ends up failing.
Right. What I would say is you can't make this the mistake again of hiring somebody completely inept for the job. And I can't imagine the Patriots doing that again. I can't imagine any NFL team making a gaffe to the extent that the Patriots made when they hired Matt Patricia to be the offensive coordinator for that team.
No, that was the kind of guy that would take a photo on the beach with a 24-year-old dressed as a fisherman that had caught her dressed as a mermaid. That's a lunatic.
70 minutes. Made it 70 minutes.
Okay, so where do you stand on that, Alex Van Pelt coming back?
Go ahead,
both
Marty.
of you, just say.
Good. I think he will be. I think he should be back next year for
Bring him back.
continuity's sake.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't want to start screwing around with that. Again, this season.
Specifically for that reason. They might bring in another qualified guy, but don't put the kid through another change.
Exactly. And I get that and remember, this kid was very, very raw. And you did the right thing by sitting him, obviously. You did the right thing by playing him. Shame on me, obviously. And all of it's working.
There's something to be said about a smoothly bringing this kid along to the point where he is now.
There's something to be said about this guy's main job was to develop Drake May, and he's doing it. It's easy in the course of a season to see bad losses and see, poor coaching decisions and go, But going into this season, before week one, if we put the question out there to Patriots fans, even those who wanted to draft Marvin Harrison and were saying how dumb it was to draft a quarterback, which a lot of you did, and I asked, would you rather have Drake May be developing well or win 6 games? Every one of you almost would have taken Drake May. Now, next question. So he says, whether they keep Alex Van Pelt, and he says whether Elliott Wolf should be picking the players next offseason. I'll answer that question for you. He drafted Drake May. He wasn't going to go crazy in free agency. It doesn't seem like Polk was a good draft pick. Everything else is up in the air. if you draft May, that buys you a lot of time. Not only is Elliott Wolf not going to get fired this offseason, Elliott Wolf's not going to get fired next offseason either. I can assure you of that. You pick the quarterback, that buys you like 5 years.
Yeah.
So you can forget about it. I mean, you can waste ink on it as much as you want, but it ain't happening. Whether DeMarcus Covington is the best leader to run the defense fair, he might be gone.
So
or whether Mayo is the right man to, because I think they will fire Covington, but whether Mayo is the right man to lead the Patriots into the future.
But they're not going to fire Mayo after a year.
No, they're
either.
not going to fire Mayo after a year.
So if you come down on the side that it is as much coaching as it is personnel right now, because I think it's both. When
you think it's as much coaching as personnel?
I disagree with that. I think it's more personnel.
I mean, they had Bill Belichick last year and won 4 games.
And the roster this year is more than a little worse than last year, and they're going to equal that win total.
Well, if Belichick's the best coach of all time and this team won 4 games, even if you vastly improve the talent on the roster, I mean, it's not going to be as coached as well.
Well, they need to come up with a new overall game plan for what is important for this team and how they're going to be able to not necessarily, have a winning record even next year, but not embarrass themselves and put themselves in position with these pre-snap penalties and the false starts and all that stuff, because that's as much as it is bad football players, that's bad coaching.
But if you give a new coach who's really got very little coaching experience a bad roster, you have to expect games like this. I know for people like us that are forced to watch the games and for fans who want to watch the games, that it's very frustrating. But it's also completely unfair because the guy didn't have, the Texans, they didn't have some huge run with a rookie quarterback. That was a team with some talent on it. You can't be. Now listen, John and I were talking about this before the show. Is Mayo going to be the coach of this team in 3 or 4 years? No,
he's not.
Because coaches don't last that long.
And the guy who replaces the guy is never the guy who succeeds.
In any industry.
Pete Carroll, a Hall of Fame head coach, lasted 3 years here because he replaced Parcells.
Yes, and usually your first coaching job is, I guarantee you Mayo gets another chance to coach a team, but it ain't going to be here. That I can tell you. Wait a second. Victor, go ahead.
Hey, guys. So, Elliott Wolf, you just said he drafted Drake May. Drake May was the only quarterback left, that echelon that was available. So, don't tell me that you drafted him. He was just the guy left.
Okay, Victor.
Every other pick after Drake May, tell me what have they done.
Victor, let's address Drake May.
Done.
Okay, Victor, let's address this.
Yeah.
The Giants wanted to trade up for Drake May. There were teams that were willing to give up a lot of picks for Drake May. They evaluated Drake May as being worth taking in that position. Victor, I applaud you for wanting Drake May, because I can tell you by hosting this show, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that wanted
every other pick after that?
The Patriots wanted the Patriots to trade the pick and then move down and take a receiver.
Okay, and what about the receiver they drafted? Tell me
he's not good.
What players? What about the line choices? The drafting for the line.
It's way too early to tell.
Come on, guys.
And what do you want him to knock out 3rd and 4th round lineman picks that they're going to be starters in the NFL?
Rounds. No, but you're making it seem like they targeted Drake May, and that's what they wanted.
Targeted
that's
Drake
the guy
May.
That was left.
They targeted Drake May. They targeted him.
I understand that other teams wanted to trade up, but we knew we needed a quarterback. At the end of the day, we needed a quarterback.
If they didn't like Drake May, they would have traded down. If they didn't think Drake May was worth it, I mean, look, it goes Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, then Justin Fields sat there until the 7th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Look, man, whatever it is, fine. They had to take Drake May. It doesn't change the narrative that if you are a GM and you pick that quarterback, that buys you an awful lot of time.
No, don't back off of that. Don't back off of that. There were other options available to him.
I thought I covered that, but here's the deal. Also, what I said is true. It goes both ways. If you're the GM and you draft the quarterback, and the quarterback ends up being good, that buys you a little bit of time. People aren't GMs of teams for decades and decades, right? Elliott Wolf will get fired, but that buys you time. If you whiff on the quarterback, you're almost certainly going to get fired soon.
Yes.
So hitting the quarterback is the most important thing he could do. And hitting the quarterback for this team gives this team hope and a chance to be a playoff team as early as next year. That's not crazy. A chance to be a 9-win team? That's not insane. That's not insane. Is it going to happen? Who knows? But I wouldn't bet $1 million on them not winning 9 games. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. But by having the quarterback, it expedites this process a ton.
The roster on the offensive side is atrocious.
Chuck Woolery died.
Yes, that happened yesterday.
Go ahead.
At 83 years old, very sad.
Well, that's no good.
But yes, the offensive skill positions are terrible. The offensive line is really bad. And by the way, even if Cole Strange were playing left guard, the offensive line would be really, really bad.
And what's interesting is
you got to improve that.
How are they going to improve the offense? Here's what I don't get: how is the offensive line going to be good this year? Andrews got hurt. How is the offensive line going to be good this year? What could have Elliott Wolf done? It's all Belichick's fault. What could Elliott Wolf done in an offseason? You want him to get Tyron Smith in free agency and go, here, 99-year-old man, do you want to play left tackle and you blow anyway?
At best, you have Onwenu and Andrews. Strange wasn't great when he was healthy.
No, and they're thinking about moving him to center.
Right.
Did you see that?
A lot of people forget that. Strange was mediocre at best for a long period of time, and the 2 tackles have been bad. Wolf didn't address that. He needs to do that this coming off season.
But what the hell was he supposed to do? People are like, why didn't you find a left tackle in the draft? When? Elite left tackles go in the first round of the draft.
If you're going to take Drake May and you're going to go wide receiver with your second pick, you're out of luck.
And he whiffed on the receiver. He obviously whiffed on that receiver. He's not fast. He's not quick. No. He's supposed to be. It was a bad pick.
It's okay, and it's okay to ask questions, but the money that they have left over and some of the decisions they made beyond Drake May, who they took at 3rd. That conversation, that was one that I heard, and that whole thing about Mac Jones when he was playing well in his first season, and people tried to give the Patriots credit for taking Mac Jones. I said, no. That's when you point the finger and say, they didn't make any decision. They took the 5th frickin' quarterback, and it appeared for a minute that they got lucky in making that pick, which they did not. Or if they did, they screwed it all up with what they did at the OC position after that.
But going back to the beginning of this conversation, it's not coaching. It's much more personnel than it is coaching, what you're seeing on the field here.
And is Mayo going to be a good head coach in the NFL? Chances are no, because how many good coaches are there in the NFL?
Yeah, most guys aren't.
And will he be the coach? I bet you he's not the coach of this team in 3 years. I bet you he'll be an NFL coach again in his life. I mean, we used to have him in. I mean, he had success in other endeavors, business endeavors. He's a bright guy. He's a charismatic guy. He obviously played the position. I don't doubt that he kills in interviews and stuff like that. But I mean, you're going to have growing pains. And look, Mayo's probably not the greatest coach in NFL history, and that's the way it's going to be. But nothing's going to change this offseason except I think they're going to fire their defensive coordinator. And they probably should, because the defense should be better. And Mayo can't be sitting there worrying about the defense. He's got to lead this team. He's got to be a CEO, and he's got to have 2 coordinators he trusts. So we're kind of all on the same page to sum up. You bring back Van Pelt next season because the biggest thing he's doing is developing Drake May, and then maybe you make a decision after next season to go with a more X's and O's competent coach. You guys agree you probably fire the defense coordinator this offseason?
To get back to me at the end of the year. I'm not convinced of that.
And I'm not convinced. I just think that's a big possibility. And then you're not getting rid of your GM after one season where you drafted Drake May. That's just not going to happen.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.